Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk. As a true video game enjoyer, it's one of my primal urges to want to watch video games being revealed. Stuff like that doesn't happen every day, so we really have to savour each and every one of them. Sonic's 25th anniversary was the first and only time I gave a shit about Sonic Forces. But that's just the thing. These things don't happen every day. You really think I'd have something to piss myself to on February 28th, 2022? No, Nintendo doesn't care that much. So when I'm yearning for reveals but none are occurring, what's the solution? Sobriety, basketball shorts, and a press release from the 90s. I'm about to get f***ed all the way up. Little known fact about the games industry, there was once a time where E3 didn't exist. It was called the Great Depression. Yeah, back before we had elaborate show floors, Todd Howard, and 3-hour-long presentations on FIFA and Madden, we as a species had to make peace with the fact that we didn't know everything there was to know about video games. Shocking. Imagine living a life where you didn't know about Mario teaches typing, you'd probably be happy. So in a world without Nintendo Directs, extensive ad campaigns, and in a time where gaming was still fairly niche, how were you gonna find out about all the latest and greatest games, a 3-day-long event held by Nintendo? We're eating well tonight, fellas! Nintendo SpaceWorld? Who's she? Well, she just happens to be Nintendo's solution to E3. 6 years before E3 was a thing. It was a chance for them to show off what they had cooking for that year, as well as giving journalists an excuse to, dear God, talk about Nintendo products. Now, did this have the potential to be an E3 killer? If you want to kill a fetus, then sure! Previously known as the Shoshinikai Software Exhibition, this event was held every year from 1989 to 2001. What the hell did they have to show in 1989? Hello, my name is Nintendo. Did you know that video games are cool? Well, yeah, how could they not be? We got Marble Madness on the NES. Now, Nintendo SpaceWorld definitely had some growing pains, and I'd argue that it didn't really become all too big a deal until 1995, the year that E3 decided to delve into the being a thing market. Is that even considered a strategy? Only becoming good when there's competition? Because if I was a hot dog retailer, I wouldn't be standing on the street side with a poster that reads, "Hey, I'm the best damn hot dog retailer in all the land. They taste like utter dog shit, but I have no competition, so I'm the best by proxy." I just got SpaceWorld 1995'd. Now, why do I say that the shows before 95 weren't all too great? Because their summaries could fit on post-it notes. For the first 5 years, Nintendo didn't really have all too much to show. So why not talk about all 5 of the pre-1995 shows all in one go to get a good idea of what Nintendo was up to before they had really nailed the art of the reveal? I wonder what year we're gonna start with. I mean, I wasn't really planning on starting there, but who am I to argue with the roulette? Now, not much exists in terms of footage or images of these early events, but the very first SpaceWorld event saw the reveal of the Super Famicom, and this was the primary focus of the show. It's crazy to think about a time before the Super Nintendo had even been released, as it's such an iconic part of gaming history, but this was the first time this system was ever shown off to the public. Alongside it, Super Mario World was shown off, in a build that looks a lot more akin to Super Mario Bros. 3 than the final build of the game. And in terms of other announcements at the show, there were none, but thank you so much for asking. SpaceWorld 1990 had even more nothing than 89. I didn't realize it was possible to show a negative number of games. I kid. While we didn't see a console reveal this year because, well, why the hell would we? We did see some actual, honest-to-goodness video games. The main 4 on display were Super Mario World, who would have thought, F-Zero, SimCity, and Pilot Wings. These games were fairly well received by attendees, but the general consensus among many was, what the hell is the point of Pilot Wings? I would love to answer that question, but I too cannot comprehend it. These 4 games ended up being launch titles for the Super Nintendo in North America, along with Gradius 3, which, wouldn't you know it, was also shown off at this event. I think they're trying to tell us something. This year's exhibition took place a few months after the Super Famicom's release, and focused primarily on 2 upcoming games for the system, being The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and Final Fantasy IV, also known as Final Fantasy II because numbers just befuddle me, like Pilot Wings. SpaceWorld 1992 saw the reveal of the Super FX chip and absolutely nothing else. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I miss 1991. Now, to be fair, the Super FX chip was one of the most interesting parts of the Super Nintendo's history. This puppy was popped into individual SNES cartridges and allowed games to do so much more graphically than any standard cartridge could do. Its main use was in Star Fox, and it allowed that game to have 3 entire dimensions and 5 entire frames per second.
Oh, Nintendo, you shouldn't have.
It was also used in Yoshi's Island and allowed players to experience a prehistoric drug trip. Fun for all ages. 1993 was probably the year that had the least to show, yet had the biggest impact. Nintendo announced their partnership with Silicon Graphics for Project Reality, basically taking a step into the future of gaming with 3D graphics. This would eventually become the Nintendo 64, which, doesn't it seem crazy that Nintendo was ready to reveal information about that system after only releasing the Super Nintendo 2 years prior? I mean, sure, the Nintendo 64 didn't end up releasing until 1996, but that just makes it even weirder that they talked about it so early. Nowadays, Nintendo revealed the Switch less than 6 months before the damn thing released. They wouldn't even dream of officially revealing information about it years before it released, like Pilot Wings. But the N64 ended up being a relative failure, so I guess they learned their lesson. The final year we're gonna look at today was the year where Nintendo finally started to figure out what the hell they were doing with SpaceWorld. Nintendo showed off Project Reality again, but it had now been renamed to the Nintendo Ultra 64 because numbers just aren't enough. This was also the first time that they ever showed off the Virtual Boy, their virtual reality abomination, and fun fact, even when Nintendo kept trying to beat it over attendees' heads just what the hell this thing is and what it does, nobody understood the point of this damn thing, just like Pilot Wings! People who demoed the system were severely underwhelmed, and they took issue with the fact that the games went in full colour, there was no head tracking, and you had to develop scoliosis if you even thought about trying to play this system. Nintendo revealed some upcoming games as well as the launch price, which many attendees noted was much too high. But Nintendo were very confident that by March 1996, this thing would have sold at least 14 million units. You cocky bitches got what you deserved.
And that was Nintendo SpaceWorld from 1989 to 1994. Now, of course, none of the shows are really big enough to give their own individual scores, but I suppose I can give an overall score, and why not? I'll even use my Throne Controllers out of 7 scoring system. I know, I'm living on the edge. Across the 5 shows, there was some pretty decent stuff shown off. The Super Famicom, the Ultra 64, and hell, even some of the games shown off were pretty nifty. But we'd be lucky to get 2 big announcements per show. Years like 1993, we literally only got the Super FX chip announced, and nothing else, so it's kinda hard to give these shows high scores. But just because of Nintendo's fantastically incorrect sales projections for the Virtual Boy, f*** it. I think the lesson to take away from the early years of Nintendo SpaceWorld is that gaming reveals are important. They're pretty damn infrequent, and having a great reveal that really speaks to you is a rarity, so we really need to cherish them. Yeah, right. This was just an elaborate way for me to waste enough time to miss my dentist appointment. Sure, my gums bleed almost constantly, but I swallow the blood anyway, so it's back in my body, meaning it's exactly where it needs to be.